Today we are going to be talking about the Pax Romana. The Pax Romana. First, we will talk about our standard. This standard will come into place when we do our activity that is linked to this lecture. Present claims and findings, sequencing ideas logically and using pertinent descriptions, facts, and details to accentuate main ideas or themes, adapt speech to a variety of contexts and tasks. You are going to be trying to find the main idea in a first-hand account of a gladiator, about a gladiator fight. All right, so the Pax Romana. This is a 200-year span that began with Augustus, which who we talked about yesterday, and ended with Marcus Aurelius, who we also spoke about yesterday. Remember, Marcus Aurelius was the one that we said lived up sort of to Plato's ideal of a philosopher king. He was a Stoic. This is known as the Pax Romana, which literally means the Roman peace. There was an overall peace, order, unity, and prosperity to the lands, stretched from the Euphrates River in the east, which is in Mesopotamia, guys. Remember we talked about that too way long ago, to Britain in the west, an area about equal to the continental United States. This is a pretty big area. This is a very large area that the Romans had managed to take over. Roman legions maintained and protected the roads, and Roman fleets hasted pirates from the seas. So there were a lot of soldiers around protecting the roads, and then Roman soldiers managed to make pirates flee from the seas, so pirates were not impacting their area very much anymore. There was a lot of global trade going along into lands far away like Africa and Asia. Egyptian farmers in the Nile Valley supplied Romans with grain, and from other parts of Africa came ivory and gold, as well as lions and other wild animals used in public entertainment. So, grain came from Egypt, other parts of Africa came ivory and gold, and also lions and other wild animals used in all these public games that they would do. From India, they had spices, cotton, and precious stones, and trade caravans traveled along the Silk Road, bringing silk and other goods from China. So, main point here, guys, there was a lot of trade going along around all over the area. From India, from Africa, from Asia. There was trade going in and out. It was overall a pretty prosperous time, a pretty wealthy time. But it wasn't just items that traveled. People and ideas moved as well, especially the advances of the Hellenistic East. Remember, Hellenism was the Greek area that had been spread by Alexander the Great initially. Talked about that too. And ideas from Greece and Judea, which is where modern day Israel would be, this is the land of the Jewish people, would also ultimately end up having an impact. You can see right here the Roman Empire at its height. Just to get an idea, again, we looked at a map like this earlier, just to get an idea of just how far the Roman Empire spread. And remember, we mentioned that Hadrian, and a Roman emperor yesterday, that he built a wall separating the Roman Britannia from the northern, and you can kind of see where that wall was right through this picture itself, separating the non-Roman half from the Roman half. This is a pretty huge empire. They controlled the entire Mediterranean Sea, essentially at this point. Bread and circuses. So let's talk about Roman entertainment for a second and why there was so much of it. So rich and poor alike in the Roman Empire got to enjoy entertainment. So if you were wealthy or you were poor, you got to enjoy the entertainment that Rome had to offer. At the Circus Maximus, Rome's largest race course, chariots went around an oval course, making dangerously tight turns at either end. And people would bet on their favorite teams, and successful charioteers were hailed as heroes. So people would race their chariots around a race course, not too different from what I would say NASCAR does today, except it was a little more dangerous, more violent. People would essentially race, and people would bet on their favorite teams. Even more popular than the Circus Maximus were gladiator contests. So many gladiators were slaves who had been trained to fight. They were professional fighters in a sense. In the arena, they battled one another either singly or in groups. Crowds would cheer a skilled gladiator, and a good fighter may even win his freedom if you were good enough. If you're good enough at this, you may be able to win your freedom back. But if a gladiator made a poor show, however, the crowd could turn their thumbs down, and it was a signal that the gladiator should be killed. So how did this public entertainment get paid for? The emperors who paid for this entertainment with taxes they collected from the empire had the perspective that the festivities were a way to pacify the city's restless mobs. So to keep the city from uprising, keep people from getting upset, because there were still restless mobs. We talked about that a lot in regards to the late Republic. This is a way to keep people from getting too upset. Here's a lot of entertainment that we're paying for with your taxes. Enjoy it. Don't fight us. Similarly, the government provided free grain to feed the poor. So there was still a lot of poverty in the Roman Empire. Despite some reforms they may have had, there was still quite a bit of poverty. So the government would provide free grain to feed them. And critics warn against this policy of bread and circuses. That's the phrase we're using here, bread and circuses. Pacify them by giving them entertainment and giving them bread. But not many listened. And even though the Pax Romana was generally pretty prosperous, this general prosperity hid many social and economic problems. But later Roman emperors would have to face problems that couldn't be solved with bread and circuses. The problems that the Roman Empire was going to have would end up becoming larger than this simple solution would be able to kind of fix. Let's talk about the Colosseum specifically here. There were gladiator matches here. There were naval battles here. The Colosseum was ancient Rome's largest stadium. You can see what the Colosseum looks like today here. So much of it is still standing. Spectators watched the slaughter of exotic animals, gladiators battling to death, and mock naval battles. So gladiators would fight here. There would be exotic animals killed here. There would be mock naval battles here for a short time, though. The naval battles didn't last forever, but they were there for a while. They would fill up the Colosseum with some water and have a fake naval battle there with ships. It was an architectural marvel. It still is. The floor was the size of a modern football field, and as many as 50,000 spectators could crowd onto the Colosseum's marble and wooden benches. There they were protected from the hot Roman sun by a giant canvas roof. We don't talk about this too much today because that canvas roof is gone, but there would be a canvas roof that would cover it to try to protect people from the sun. The Circus Maximus, where they would have chariot rides. This is an artistic representation of what that may have looked like. These is an illustration of gladiators who would go out there and fight. Many of them were slaves. Sometimes they could win back their freedom. So now I want you to go to the gladiator account, main idea, activity, and then do your Colosseum Ed puzzle after.